Hey, it is your boys, this Anime Parley. We were just talking before this thing hit recording, but whatever. Yeah, obviously, if you're reading the title, I mean, we're not trying to piss you guys off, like we're really not. But there's just certain things that we just gotta call a spade on. And at least for me, as a resident Sanji fan, I've had it with Zoro, and I'm ready to talk about it. I'm ready to testify that Zoro is not shit, and that Oda is trying to make him into this magic Giga Chad, and glazes him constantly. So that's just where I'm at. I'll let the rest of the crew introduce themselves, and we'll just dive in.
Well, peace and blessings, y'all. It's your boy Wild and Free. Killer Cam over there talking crazy.
I'm a hater.
Yo, what's up? It's Moogie Mike. I'm a Zoro Glazer as well. You're going to hear it.
Dedicated Zoro Glazer, Bash Ketchum. You already know what time it is at this point. Let's get it.
Okay. Okay, so I don't know. I mean, let's just start off with the obvious. Why? Why are we doing this video? Why is the let's say take or perspective one of just kind of hating on Zoro? And I know that this is a controversial, I'm going to put this in quotes, kind of question as to, is Oda glazing Zoro too hard, particularly in this like post time skip? Is it unfair, particularly to Sanji? I mean, I think it's questionable, largely just because, I mean, just to be fair, Zoro is the right-hand man of the Pirate King. He was the first person to be recruited into the crew. He's the first mate of the Straw Hat Pirates. He is Supernova. He's a part of the rookie, like the world's, I guess, worst generation. Zoro could easily, and to be honest, you could even make the argument with Monsters, the one-shot, that he could easily have been the lead of this story. You know, he's got this great ambition to be the, world's greatest swordsman. If you're unfamiliar with one shot or with the one shot monsters, I'll just give like a very quick synopsis of it. Basically, it's set in a world that's vaguely similar to the one that we're experiencing with One Piece, and it's about,
It's like the same world.
yeah, basically, it's like I mean, technically it is too. It's like
It's technically a
technically
super
canon.
prequel.
But basically,
Yeah.
it's a samurai who's like a wandering samurai, and he ends up on this island, and then he defeats this giant dragon creature, and then saves the day, and then blah blah. Blah. Basically, just like a crazy. The whole thing is like a crazy feat. That's the whole thing. It's just this guy is an awesome swordsman, and then we find out later that this person exists, and he is Ryuma within the world of One Piece. But okay, so that and just as an aside, he also looks just like Zoro. So like.
Yeah.
Like-
Zoro with black hair.
It's kind of weird, yeah.
Yeah, basically. So, like, Oda has had a soft place in his heart for Zoro for a very long time. And that is evident. It is evident throughout the story. It's evident throughout, obviously, Zoro's introduction, all of Zoro's kind of more iconic moments. Nothing happened, if that rings any bells. And I gotta be honest, like, the question isn't really like, is Zoro cool? Obviously he is. Is he stoic? Yes.
Case closed.
Is he a strong, interesting character that is fun to watch? Of course he is. It's the reason why he's like the second most popular character in literally almost every single poll except for one. And that was when Law just happened to kind of edge him out, and Law was the number 2, and then he ended up number 3. That being said, though, the question is it necessarily earned in relation to the other Straw Hats, or is it like specifically favored? And I'm going to make the argument that Oda really favors Zoro. He, like, because sometimes there are competing moments where, like, sometimes Sanji gets the cool move. Not in post-time skip, by the way, almost exclusively in pre-time skip, but like, sometimes Sanji gets like the cool kind of like moment. But almost invariably, the moments are reserved for Zoro, if not Luffy. If they're not going to Luffy, they go right downhill and they go to Zoro and then blah, blah, whatever, right? So I want to get you guys' initial reaction before I just jump into, because we're going to do like a quick recap of like all the moments of Zoro. It's not going to take that long, but all the moments of Zoro through basically the series, like how it kind of compares. And I'm going to compare it to Sanji because Sanji's, the number 3. And how it kind of lends itself, shut up, how it lends itself to this premise that Oda really like maybe is projecting. I mean, not to do like some like pop culture psychology, but like projecting onto Zoro. Like Zoro's kind of like this awesome, cool guy that I don't know. I mean, not to get too deep.
The man's man is the ideal.
But he's like, it's something different. Like, if you can make the argument that like Oda is kind of like cucking Sanji, he's glazing Zoro. So, okay, I want to get you guys' kind of initial reactions on that, like, and then we'll get into it.
I mean,
Wild and free. Y'all can go ahead.
I genuinely feel like it's fair. Like, one, yes, absolutely, Zoro deserves all of the feats and the accolades that he has received in the story, right? Canon-wise. Like, the same way that it can be said that any other character has kind of earned their place, except for the only arguments that I see against are, like, for Kobe in the sense that we just didn't get to see it, right? But I would say that he's earned it as well. But as far as on screen, we've absolutely seen Zoro earn his title and where he's at and all of the accolades that he receives within the canon of the story in the frame itself. I do think that, yeah, Zoro might be projecting or, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not like iconoclast, but like, not even idolizing, but like putting a frame of idealism within the character of Zoro with the intent of saying like, okay, cool, this is how someone who embodies the samurai code, this is somebody who is stoic, this is somebody who is responsible, this is how this character would be portrayed through my eyes, right? And we get to see Oda embody various personas and personalities through all of the other characters. This is just his character to embody these specific traits, which a lot of people actually appreciate, right? Like, it is his opportunity to be the, like, create that cornerstone of masculinity, responsibility, stoicism, strength, right? So that just happens to be all of the traits that he has funneled into this particular character. And that just happens to be the traits that everybody likes. And we all love to see a great fight in anime, and Zoro absolutely gives us that. So I don't see nothing wrong with the acclaim that Zoro gets at this point. Like, I got a fire-ass Zoro pin right here. So,
Hey,
Nice.
you know what I'm saying?
I like that.
Throw it in the trash.
He said, throw it in the trash.
Throw it in
Nah.
the trash. Put
Shout
it
out
on
to
the heap.
Zenny Ryoken.
Okay, what about
That's
the
my
rest?
thoughts.
What the rest of you
Oogie?
two? Spit it out.
Yeah, well, this is my resident Zoro right here. Here's
Hey,
my little figurine.
Oh, yeah.
I was actually going to say, I'm kind of surprised that you think he is favored and not earned as far as his place as the like resident tough guy. He definitely has taken the most damage from throwing himself at everything. Oh, it's like
yeah.
in so many
He's a tank.
situations. Yeah, he's a tank. He's constant. He
Brian's
is the
getting
one
excited
out of
sexually.
honestly, out of every one of the Straw Hats, like I would say he's the most earned of his position because he's just
Facts.
like grit. Like he's getting down in there. He's working out in every single scene. Like he's the most earned. Like even Luffy, I would say, is below him, who just has this like latent, wild anger and power, or not even
Technically,
anger, just like
Luffy
flippant
did train
power.
as a kid, and he trained very hard in that garb.
Yeah, but what is like silly training? He just was in a forest fighting animals. Like
Fighting for his
Zoro,
life.
Silly.
Zoro's actually like sword fighting.
Zoro's training in an air-conditioned
And Luffy
dojo.
has, like-
Luffy's out in the scrum in the jungle fighting wild beasts for his life.
I'm just like, it's not the same. Like Zoro is lifting weights like every day. He's like truly training.
every day. Drinking
You know that one
Every
J.
single
Cole
day.
line where he's like, you took a lot of boxing lessons, but you're still pussy? That is
Yeah.
Zoro. That is Zoro.
Nah, dude.
God,
That's
language.
hilarious.
Luffy's out here in these streets, and Zoro is just sitting there in the gym, just practicing his little punches.
Like this
practicing
is
his little things.
this is Zoro's role though. Like
Crazy.
he's
I mean, okay,
if there wasn't an emperor crew, if they weren't emperors,
Right.
then he wouldn't be that tough. But the fact that they are an Emperor crew is because he is that guy and he is that tough dude. Like, someone's got to be that way, you know?
And let's not forget, he is a bounty hunter, and he has
Oh my gosh.
turned in
Son of a
some
bounty.
bounties, right?
Oh, yeah.
I'm just
Oh, yeah.
saying.
Don't
Like,
get me
Well,
started on bounty
While
hunter, I
Luffy
promise.
was
Yeah.
going around eating, he was killing pirates.
Boy is
Okay.
Dog the Bounty Hunter out here, bro.
Okay, let me get your thing, and then I'm gonna just destroy Zoro.
Oh my god, you have nothing, dude.
Oh gosh, this is tough. So Cameron's really out here like Drake. It's like a 20v1. I didn't think it would be a 20v1. In this case, a 3v1.
I'm
I
standing
got my
tall,
Zoro
man.
up here.
all right.
Zoro up here above my head. Shout out to Zoro, man. I'm a dedicated Zoro glazer. So, first of all, my first point is going to be this. I mean, you already kind of touched on this, Killicam. The first Straw Hat member, crew member that we meet is Zoro. He's like our first Nakama introduction, man, and that is huge. That's going back to day one. That is Luffy's right hand man. Zoro's ready to square up at any given moment, man. He is about that action. He's throwing hands with anyone. Zoro would fight his own mom if it was about Luffy. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Facts.
he just doesn't care. So, not to throw any like mathematical analogies out there, but this is like an order of operations. This is PEMDAS, right? In order to solve for X, you have to start with the parentheses and the exponent. So we're starting with the number 2. We're starting with Zoro. Sanji doesn't come along until is he like he's the 4th Straw Hat member.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
We get Zoro, then we get Nami, I believe, then we get Usopp. And then this little Barati chef comes along, and then we get Sanji. I don't hate Sanji. I like Sanji a lot. I really do. I just don't think. I think everything is earned as far as all of Zoro's power-ups. And if we even go back more into the scope of Zoro's becoming, I mean, this goes all the way back to his promise to Kuina when he was training to be a samurai when he was a kid. Right? It's always been his driving force, his will, his ability to tank stuff, his ability to just give his life for Luffy. It's so crazy that you can hate on a character like that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hate.
Yeah, he's like sacrificed himself so many times.
All right. Okay. Listen. Okay, so I'm gonna just start off and say this. All right. So yes, Zoro is cool. We can all agree he's got a cool design. He uses 3 swords. I think his name is kind of dumb. I'm just gonna be honest. Like, Zoro is supposed to be like
Zoro.
bro. Zoro is like it's based off of what, like,
name's dumb.
the masked like Robin Hood from like Spain or something like that. Like, what is this? Okay, but
The
anyways,
Mask of Zoro?
yes,
Wow.
literally,
Neil
I think that's
Harris?
where that comes from. But it's like it's a little stupid,
Thanks.
but whatever. So you have that, but okay, cool. His name is Zoro. Cool. He's got 3 swords. Awesome. Even though it's kind of stupid, doesn't make any sense. But
Okay.
whatever. Like,
Hater.
listen, whatever. It's like, okay, he has these cool feats. So I'm gonna run through, and then we're gonna just reflect for a little bit. But I'm gonna run through all of the major moments of basically Zoro's career, his resume, and then we'll talk about like really just kind of overarching feelings on Zoro as it relates to where we're currently at in the story. Okay, so where do we meet Zoro? We meet Zoro in East Blue. He is tied up. We don't know how he got captured. I mean, obviously he got captured by the Marines, but basically gets tied up. Shows the Marines are, or at least, you know, Captain Axian Morgan is like corrupt or whatever. That's kind of it. Obviously, he joins Luffy and he becomes the first member of the Straw Hats. Like, him and Luffy have like a fun, whatever, bickering kind of relationship, right? In which like Zoro's constantly challenging Luffy on like, you're an idiot. Or like, come on, blockhead or whatever, even though Zoro has his own issues, you know, namely getting lost in directions and stuff like that, right? So they're kind of presented as like the dynamic duo. Then we go further. Obviously, we end up meeting Nami, and we end up meeting Usopp, and then Sanji. So just kind of East Blue. I'm just going to wrap it up, right? The biggest moment for Zoro is his fight with Mihawk, right? This is the Bharati arc, and what happens? Zoro meets the person that he's, at least, you know, by the part of the story, he is destined to fight. It's the person he has to defeat in order to overcome his or to achieve his dream, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Lo and behold, he meets him. Mihawk just happens to be crossing East Blue, and then what happens? Zoro challenges him to a fight. You have the classic, iconic, taking out the small sword. He basically kind of bitches Zoro up a little bit, and it basically says, "Okay, listen, I respect your will, I respect your resolve, and I am going to kill you as like a true warrior, as a true swordsman." And he slashes him with his sword Yoru. And I guess he pulls it or something, because obviously we know Mihawk could have easily just killed him, but he decides not to. And he gives him his own Shanks level inspirational speech to come back and see me when you're older kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Sweet, awesome, sick.
I mean, but you get what I'm saying? We're kind of introduced that is Zoro's Shanks moment. You get what I'm saying?
Sure.
It's someone that he admires.
Yeah, it's the coolest.
And to be honest, kind of in the same tier, because Shanks and Mihawk are constantly compared as far as swordsmen.
Yep.
But
they're rivals.
Introduced in that moment is this is Zoro's transformative moment. And I got to be honest, and this is where I take issue. This is Sanji's introductory arc. So what happens to Sanji in this arc? Let's look into our textbooks. Let's look into our textbooks. What happens to Sanji? Sanji's introduced. He's a cool dude. Obviously, he's ladies' man or whatever, at least trying to be. We get his awesome backstory, which in my opinion is so much better than Zoro's. Zoro's is I'm training, and then my friend died because he fell down some steps. Sanji's is, I was on a boat that got shipwrecked, and I was with some dude who I was going to kill because I thought he was hoarding food, and it turns out he wasn't hoarding food. He ate his own leg in order so that I could survive. That is real. It's a crazy backstory. It works really well that he then becomes a chef. He wants to feed people. He never denies anybody food. That is an aspect of his core values and more or less integrity and chivalry. And he gets one fight. It's sort of like him versus Pearl, if you guys remember. Pearl was the giant stupid, it's Don Creek pirates, so they all have stupid little gimmicks or whatever. He has pearls on him that he hits and then they catch on fire or whatever. It's not Sanji who takes out Pearl. In fact, it is Gin. Gin, with his little spinning tonfas, he looks like an alcoholic. He's the person that Sanji fed, and Gin fights Sanji. And to be honest, it's relatively evenly matched, but Gin is hyped up. He's second in command of the Don Krieg little pirates. And then he just proceeds to wash Sanji. He cracks his rib, and it's really rough and kind of disturbing because he hits him with the, his tonfas have cannonballs attached to them, giant orb pieces of metal, smashes his side, breaks all of his ribs, and then basically pins him down, and then cries on top of Sanji. He's I can't kill him, to Don Krieg. That's Sanji's introduction. That is Sanji's first fight. Meanwhile, Zoro, who also takes a loss, by the way, takes his loss, gets inspired, gets come find me, when you're stronger, I'll be waiting for you out there. And that is the initial distinction between the way that Oda treats Sanji and the way that Oda treats Zoro. And, ironically, you kind of have this reverse where Zoro's crying and he's I'm never going to lose again. And then that's the juxtaposition. Okay, fast forward, right? Which I think is bullshit, but let's just fast forward. Okay. So you get into Alabasta, Alabasta. I say Alabasta, so whatever. You get into Whiskey Peak, right? Whiskey Peak. I barely remember. I had to look this up. I know you guys probably forgot, but basically it's the town of bounty hunters that I guess feed the crew, but they're actually planning on betraying them. We're kind of getting introduction of Baroque works. And there's a moment where Luffy walks outside. He sees that all of the bounty hunters of the town have been defeated by Zoro. Another kind of glaze by Oda. Defeated by Zoro. And Luffy's pissed because he's he doesn't know that they're bounty hunters. He's how dare you? Why did you attack these people? You cut them down. It's crazy. I'm going to fight you. I'm going to basically take care of you right now, right? This is his first mate that he's talking to. Zoro's okay, listen, you got this all wrong. These people are bounty hunters. You're an idiot. Trust me, whatever. Luffy's not having it. He attacks him. They start fighting. In this fight, Zoro specifically and explicitly says, this is a good opportunity to see who's stronger. He is challenging his captain And I find that so disrespectful. It makes me sick. It makes me want to throw up. That is your hero. He challenges captain, and he's like, "I'm the captain now." He's like, "I'm gonna fight this dude. I'm gonna beat him up. I'm gonna cut him. I'm gonna slice him up, and I'm gonna be the captain." And that is just bad guy behavior. But so that's Whiskey Peak. Then we jump into Little Garden.
It's a pirate crew, bro.
Whatever. We jump into Little Garden. Little Garden. He gets the cool moment. Sanji also gets a cool moment because he takes out 2 Baroque agents, even though they're animals, and then he like gets intel from Crocodile, but whatever. Zoro's cool moment is he is stuffed in like the wedding cake candle wax thing, and then he basically says, "Okay, listen, if I can't get out of this thing, I'm just gonna cut my legs off. Like if that's what it takes, I'm gonna cut my legs off, and that'll be how I get out." And I gotta be honest, it's kind of cool, but also very stupid. It's like, dude, you're gonna die. You're gonna die if you cut your legs off. I mean, I know this is One Piece, but like, I think you'll actually die. But whatever. Cool moment. Points for Zoro. We jump over to Skypiea. I'll be honest, really nothing really happens for Zoro here. I mean, he is a part of like the final 4. It's him, it's Gonfall, it's Wiper, it's, Robin. They're all facing Enel. Enel at this point in time is like, "Oh, you guys made it. You're going to be my new priest. And we're all going to go to, I guess, we're going to board the Arc Maxim and then go to, I guess, Fairy Verth or whatever he thinks is up there, right? Go to the moon." They all end up fighting. Zoro gets taken out, so he actually loses this time. But we're not going to talk about that. He does lose. But he gets taken out by Enel. Everybody does. Sanji gets the best moment of the like other Straw Hats, which is, I was looking for a smoke. It just is what it is.
For a light.
Sanji, thank you for a light. Sanji gets the win on that one. Basically, we then jump to Water 7. Zoro gets this moment. Also, Sanji gets this moment. But Zoro gets this moment where he checks Luffy and he's like, "Listen, Usopp left the crew. Like, if you are really the captain, you cannot accept that. And like, honestly, if you do, I'm out of here." And it was real. And it was a great moment for Zoro. It was a great moment for Luffy. It really kind of matured. And it really showed in that moment. I'll let you jump in a second. It showed in that moment that Zoro is not just like a strong meathead kind of guy. He is an incredibly strong leader and a appropriate right hand for Luffy in terms of giving him guidance when he doubts himself. Mr. Wanafree, go ahead.
Yeah, all I was going to say is that Sanji, I think, also
he does
he expressed his thoughts during. Yeah, I think he
kicks Luffy immediately when Luffy threatens to basically put because this is actually the first thing that happens. Luffy's like, "Okay, you can leave then, Usopp." And then as he's saying that, Sanji kicks the crap out of him.
Yeah.
Then he's like, "What were you going to say?" He's like, "Were you going to like threaten it, like to kick him out? Like, why would you even take it to that level?" And then Usopp goes, "Oh, no, I knew what he was going to say. He was going to kick me out, whatever. Like, well, whatever. We're going to duel then, and we're going to duel for the Mary. Whoever wins, whatever, right?" And then obviously, he loses. But
so,
yes. Okay, so.
That's all I was going to say. I was just going to give Sanji credit there. Where
Sanji does get credit there. I will say this, though, that like it's after that moment that's important. I mean, obviously the Sanji thing is important.
For sure.
But after that is like really important. And I will give it to Zoro in the sense of what Zoro said in terms of not taking Usopp back. Because Sanji actually, I think, was ready to take Usopp back. Same with Nami. They were like, "Oh, let's just, let's bring him back." Zoro was the person who said no. And then I think Sanji eventually agrees. So I'll give Zoro the win on that one. Okay, so jumping in Enos lobby, there's a cool moment where, I mean, obviously Zoro takes down Kaku. There's a cool moment, and I actually love this dynamic of Zoro, where like he's got, and we never see this anymore because Chopper's a toy now, but Chopper really respects Zoro. He looks at him as like a powerful pirate, someone to admire, someone that like he respects, he wants to be like. And you have this interesting dynamic where a lot of the time Zoro is the person who saves or jumps after Chopper first. Like obviously if you go back and watch like pre-time skip, there's a lot of like moments where boom, storm comes in and the crew gets knocked off, like, and basically Sanji will go pick up Luffy and Zoro will go and pick up Chopper, right? And there's a really great dynamic, and specifically within Enos lobby, it is Zoro, I think. Zoro or Frankie. I think it's Zoro, but I have to check. Zoro or Frankie, I'll obviously find out and put it up. But like one of them saves Chopper. I think it's Zoro, but saves Chopper and pulls him up when he goes monster form and dives into the water with him. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I think it's Frankie. But anyways, Zoro saved him a bunch of times, so we're gonna give it to Zoro too. Okay, so Thriller Bark. Obviously, Zoro fights Ryuma. It's really, really cool. He like really takes any kind of thunder away from Brook. Unfortunately, like Brook is like that's like his ultimate enemy. Is the person who like technically has his shadow, and he's been trying to take this dude on for forever. And like this, I mean, even Ryuma like as like an enemy is kind of a prick because he like is trying to like kill the person who like whose shadow he has. And like doesn't care about his afro, anything. It's really messed up. And like it's Zoro who ends up taking out Ryuma in this weird, the way they portray it, and particularly in the anime, it's weird where it's like they flash forward to like the end and then they go back and show you like what actually happened. But anyways, okay, so he takes out Ryuma, and then obviously what happens at the end of Thriller Bark? Nothing happened. The biggest moment, one of like the most iconic moments in the series, but specifically for Zoro, probably his top. Where he is confronted by Kuma, well, the whole crew is. They're basically just decimated. Kuma comes, is like, okay, Gekko Moria failed. I'm here now, and you're all going to die, basically.
Well, Killer Cam, we got the Asura power-up before that.
We did.
And this lobby.
We do. But, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a cool moment. He takes on Kaku. He unlocks or whatever he uses Asura. We don't even know what that is.
It's and killing intent. And like spiritual pressure.
Yeah, it's retcon to be Conqueror's Haki, but you know, whatever. I mean,
it's also it can be seen, so it's not.
It can be seen. It's just like a weird power up that like.
It's not weird.
It is weird. Like Oden gives him a power that makes
it's sick.
It makes no sense, and even he at that time doesn't even realize that he has it. He's like, "What are you talking about? I had 9 heads or whatever." It's like, dude, like, whatever, right? Like, it's just a random power. Like, at least Diable Jambe got explained. It's like, oh, he's spinning so fast, his his foot catches on fire.
Yeah, but that's weird.
Friction.
Yes, it's
there's holes in that power up.
It is something.
Now he doesn't even spin. He just sticks his leg out and it goes on fire.
I know. I don't agree with that. I don't agree. I would have preferred.
Yeah, that's
I would have preferred
if
like what happened with Queen, and he was like, dude, like only Lunarians can do that, and I would know because the homie's a Lunarian. I would have liked to have seen them explain like, oh, he's got like Lunarian splice into his DNA. Right?
He placebo affect himself with his modified body.
We don't get it, but that is.
I have a feeling that okay, so the same way we were talking about how Haki was retconned into the story, I think that the whole Lunarian thing with Sanji and his fire leg was kind of retconned in there.
I mean, it's possible.
The same way, like,
it's
because it is, but I think that at least gives it some kind of a foothold to, like, because I think that oftentimes Oda will do something. He'll add something into the story, and it's just kind of cool for the moment, but then he'll logically figure out how does this actually fit in to the themes of the story and where it's going. And so I think, the moment with Sanji and the fire leg, and similar with Luffy and the Red Hawk, right? Because even that we blamed on friction.
No, I mean, he says it. I think he says it specifically.
Yes.
Yeah, but
now we
thinks
actually
that.
know it's not just exactly. He thinks it's friction, but it's actually.
I mean, if I hear this is Gear 5th, I'm gonna close this stream so fast.
It's separate topic.
Separate topic.
Okay,
but still.
but what I will say though is this, which is like.
Because he did it underwater. I'm just gonna say that there's
no friction. Where's the friction?
There's no friction. He's coded when he does it. He's not in the water. Because guys, remember, he's a devil fruit user. He can't fight in like the seawater.
Yo, he just throws his arm back and it turns on fire. There's friction.
So different topic for another day.
Okay, all right, whatever.
Friction.
Okay, all right. Let me just get through the Zoro thing, and then I can destroy him, and then we'll get into other things after that's done. Okay.
There's been no destroying, by the way. Yet.
I mean, I'm just recapping so far, but like,
waiting.
I'm dropping little drips and drabs of like, here is differences between the treatment of Zoro and like literally the rest of the crew, including Luffy, because he threatened to take on his captain, and like they fought to like a standstill. By the way, if you go back and look at that fight, Nami's the person who like. Bashes her head. It's played as a joke, but like Nami bashes her heads together, and it's like they fought to a standstill. That's so insulting to Luffy.
You don't want your captain getting complacent.
It makes me sick. It makes me sick to my stomach.
Let me just interject really quickly on that one point. Luffy instigated that. With Sanji, he was the instigator. With Usopp, he was the instigator. In the scenario with Zoro, Luffy was the one who instigated that.
Nobody
I'm just
fights
saying.
Luffy to a standstill. That just doesn't happen. And even in the case of
Except
Sanji,
for Zoro.
Sanji got treated correctly, even though I didn't like it. I didn't like to see it. But when Sanji in Whole Cake Island jumped in the air and did his basically whatever Le Fleur, whatever French name for whatever Colette, I don't know. Croissant,
shot,
whatever.
Croissant shot.
He comes down out of the air and like drop kicks Luffy, and Luffy like just eats it. He just eats it. He's just like, dude, don't worry, I'm gonna wait right over here. Like when you're done, like you know what I mean? Like come grab me. And it's like,
dude,
that is what should happen when you attack your captain, which is like he eats it, and you basically are humbled. Zoro fighting Luffy to a standstill, I don't care how early it was, that shouldn't have happened, and it makes me sick.
Yeah, but every single the foundation of a good pirate crew is that the captain should be able to be challenged at any time.
Facts.
This isn't a hierarchy thing where you can get complacent. Like this is like you're in it. You're in a pirate crew now, and you got to keep your captain
Can I
accountable.
ask a question, guys? Have we seen any major pirate get significantly challenged by anybody in their crew? Has that happened to Roger? Has that happened to Whitebeard? Has that happened to Shanks? Has that happened to Blackbeard? Is anybody challenging?
They're the strongest. They're the strongest.
Might not have seen
Luffy's
it yet.
the strongest. It's like no one should be challenging. Have we seen it with Killer? Challenging Kid. Have we seen it with Beppo? Challenging Law. Ain't nobody challenge. No one challenges Luffy. All right, nobody.
One Piece is the story about the Straw Hat Pirates. That's the only reason why I'm going to say we haven't seen it with other
Zoro
pirates.
needs to fall the fuck in line. He needs to understand the deference that is at play here. He needs to know his place. He needs to know his place, and he needs to respect the hierarchy. But okay, let's jump back.
He's keeping his captain accountable. Iron sharpens iron. They're both very strong. Sanji in Whole Cake Island was just a little baby having a tantrum.
Nah, Oda's trying
and Daddy had to handle that.
Oda, here's really what it is. Right. Oda doesn't know who his main character is because although he's like, dang, I made this one shot called Monsters and they didn't pick that shit up. All right, man. Let's just go with this like pirate, and we're gonna call him Luffy, and we'll go with his story. But I'm still gonna put
it was that simple
in there. I'm really gonna put the guy that I wanted in there. I'm gonna put him in there. I'm gonna make sure he's still in there. And that is exactly we see this competing kind of like. I'll give you a perfect example because you see this a lot. Thankfully, in the next little part that I'm going to talk about was Sabati Archipelago. We then get the understanding that we have 11 supernovas in the world. Obviously, there's the the kind of lore that basically like Oda just cooked these guys up immediately because he just wanted to kind of pad out Sabati Archipelago. So like he kind of wrote them like all these different characters that are now major characters in different ways. He just wrote them all like within like a week or whatever, right? And in that moment, he defines, obviously Luffy's a supernova, but also Zoro's a supernova. And also there's another pirate crew that is similar to Luffy, but kind of the inverse, which is the Kid Pirates. And their first mate is also a supernova. Who'd have thought, right? So even in that point in time, like you're still like, there are people who talk about Zoro. I forget the exact moment, but they're like, I think Zoro's off walking by himself, and they're like, "Man, he's so strong. Like he's not the he's not the captain of the Straw Hats. Like he's so strong though."
Right.
And I'll give you another thing. Everybody remembers the iconic punch that Luffy gives to the Celestial Dragon. Mm-hmm. You want to know what almost happened before that? Zoro almost cut a Celestial Dragon before Luffy
on the street.
And it's Bonnie. Bonnie was the person who stops him. So like even the idea of like these moments that are like specific for I mean it was whatever, it didn't even happen. But
they're ready to go, dude. They're the sickest.
My thing is like Zoro has like these moments that he like because Oda also favors him as this like secondary main character. Yeah. He kind of steals the thunder from Luffy. Now obviously, in retrospect, nobody really remembers that moment because everybody remembers the actual punch. But when you go back and look, the idea that the only other person out of all the other supernovas, out of everybody else on that island that was even thought of attacking a celestial dragon was Zoro. And you can make the argument, no one else is stupid enough to do that. No one else crazy enough to do whatever, right? But the point is like that level of boldness, that level of like stoic, cool. I don't care what the consequences are. I'm gonna do what needs to be done for the just because that's how I feel. That moment for Luffy, in retrospect, is lessened because Zoro does it first, or at least tries to. He gets stopped, but he tries to. So again, it's this kind of competing where it's like Oda clearly looks at Zoro, at least in my opinion, as like he could be the next main character. He could be the main character, and I think he treats him like that throughout the entirety of the show. And that's pre-time skip, but we'll get into the rest. Go ahead.
Oh my god, dude.
Deuteragonist.
Let me Deuteragonist, right? Okay. So here's the thing. Why is that wrong? What's
he's
wrong
not
with
he's
that,
not a
right?
Deuteragonist. I mean, the whole story is about
How
Luffy.
is he not?
I mean, the whole thing
How is he not?
Well, the whole thing is about
Oda
Luffy.
is clearly showing. Oda is clearly showing that he has this Deuteragonist kind of position, and it's not unheard of to have that kind of role in an anime, right? Yugi and Kaiba, like obviously all of the other scenarios where obviously, I mean, Naruto is the Naruto show for real, right? But Sasuke is kind of right there, right? You have Hunter x Hunter. You got Gon and Killua that have a similar weight in the story.
Those characters
and
operate
in the story,
independently,
right?
though. So you just mentioned Naruto and Sasuke.
Which is fair.
Sasuke goes
right?
off and does his own thing. He is a Deuteragonist in the sense of he has his own completely
Until
separate
Boruto,
plot line.
I guess.
But
Kinda. I mean,
we're talking about Naruto.
He's doing his own thing.
He has his own separate plot. I wouldn't even say he's a Deuteragonist in Boruto, but like he has his own separate plot, basically, that like is parallel to the main like protagonist, right?
And that just happens to be the dynamic of their story, right? In this story for One Piece, right? They are pirate crew, right? Luffy, Zoro.
Yes.
So they're obviously going to follow a very tight-knit parallel, right? Like they do have different goals and ambitions, but it is a joint endeavor in that they are on the same pirate crew.
Well,
right?
they have the same goal.
So
I agree with that.
No, but they have the same goal. It's like the goal is to make Luffy the Pirate King. And you're right. The secondary goal is...
in doing so, right, Zoro will become the strongest.
Yes, the secondary goal is I'm going to become the but like, and this is actually really important. In Thriller Bark, Zoro was like ready to throw it all away in service of Luffy's dream. He was going to throw his dream away. He literally says that. He's like, listen, I'm going to become the world's best swordsman. That is a big enough head to take back and to satisfy basically the Marines or the world government or whatever in sparing Luffy, which kind of doesn't make any sense, but whatever. The point being is that like Oda clearly has a thing for Zoro, right? Like he's the main character that we meet. You have this one shot. Every single arc in which Zoro, where there are like major fights, Zoro is fighting like the number 2 guy. I mean, there's 2 examples where he's not, and they're both in like the post-time skip, which is Fishman Island. Because technically Zoro takes out Hody Jones before the energy steroids.
I was waiting for that one.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like he usurps the main character, and then basically the main villain of the arc gets a crazy buff, and then basically
he had to retreat.
Yeah, he ends up fighting Luffy, but like he takes out Hody, and I would argue that the little like octopus, like blue ring octopus fishman isn't really the number 2. I would probably like, I don't know. I think the fishmen were just kind of weird. They're kind of hard to gauge. They just have weird designs and they're kind of forgettable, specifically their names. And I would argue that Watatsumi is actually more of like but technically there's a tag team between Jinbei and Sanji, but whatever. But that being said, like the other example to that is Hokek Island. Obviously he's not in that, but Punk Hazard as well. Like Zoro's there. He fights Monet, who's I would argue is not the number 2. I'd say Virgo is. But obviously what happened in that case, it went to Law, who is
Law, and Law 2. Got the pole on that one.
Exactly. So even in that arc, though, with Punk Hazard, it's like, what happens? Zoro is so crazy badass that he intimidates a Logia user into, like, basically, like, falling apart. So,
because at that point, did he have... No, he just didn't use hockey. He had hockey, and he just didn't use it in that scenario with Monet.
Yes.
And that was the thing.
Yeah.
Like, he effectively used a death, like, intimidation, right? Against her, and it just caused her to be so fearful that she couldn't put herself back together.
I mean, somebody's gonna retcon that and be like, "Oh, he was using Conqueror's hockey," but like, whatever.
Nah.
But like,
not proven.
But yeah. So, I mean, one more thing, and I think this is important, which is like the time skip. Okay, so I'm not going to go through where every crew member goes, even though I do think that, like, I mean, some went to better places than others. Some went to places that were more relevant to their growth than others, right? Like the whole idea. Even Kuma was behind this. Kuma knew, was like, you guys got to get stronger. So I'm going to send you places where you can get stronger. So we're just going to focus on Luffy, Sanji, and Zoro. Luffy goes to Amazon Lily. Why? Amazon Lily is really close to Impel Down. And Kuma sends him basically to the place where he can best be positioned to save his brother, right? Thank you, Kuma. Zoro. Where does Zoro
Love
go?
you, Kuma.
Zoro
Mihawk.
goes to
Straight to Mihawk.
Mihawk. He goes directly to the one person in the entire world who can best train him to beat him. Like his dream is, I got to beat you. Kuma goes, you should go train under that guy. And like, what better person could you ask for? I mean, obviously Luffy,
Yeah, facts.
you know, thankfully, because, you know, Rayleigh has a relationship with, you know, the Kuja pirates and just Amazon Lily. Rayleigh is in a position where Rayleigh ends up training Luffy. It's a great person, great mentor. Obviously, him and Kuma have, I guess, like a relationship. Even though it's not
Kuma
really
knew that shit.
explained. But anyway, so like, Luffy goes to the best place possible. Zoro definitely goes to the best place possible. I know everyone's gonna be like, oh, but he humbled himself to like learn from the person he's trying to defeat. Clearly, Mihawk doesn't have a problem with it. To be clear, no one's saying this is supposed to be like a fight to the death. This is basically just like oh, you bested me, you're stronger than me, like you're the better swordsman. I mean, clearly, like, you know, the contention of Shanks and Mihawk fighting all these years and like establishing who's a better swordsman, they clearly like left unarmed. They don't even have scars, right? Like the scar that obviously Shanks has came from Blackbeard. So it's like the idea that like Zoro has anything to risk from studying under his like rival.
He lost his eye.
His rival mentor. We don't know that, right? We know that he hasn't opened the eye, but we have no idea in terms of whether it's lost permanently.
I mean, we're supposed to assume that it's got a huge scar on it.
I know,
and he's
but
never opened it in hardcore fights against Kaido.
I know, but I feel like there is something. I would not be surprised if he opens it up and it's a Mihawk eye. But like,
I know, but that's what I'm saying. That's the headcanon. Right now, the true stuff is that it is gone.
But no one has said that it's gone. You get what I'm saying? No one's even brought it up.
It's not working. It's not using his eye.
I feel you, but like we've seen so many manga and anime. Where,
I think something's going to happen.
They have their eyes closed,
but that's
and then they open it
canon.
up. Boruto is a perfect example of that, by the way. Boruto has the exact same thing. Obviously, his eyes
I think something's going to happen too.
You think Zoro's got Sharingan or Renegade?
He's got something.
Okay, the point being is like, okay, let's just say, at least for argument's sake, he lost his eye. Big whoop, whatever. Clearly, it's not affecting him in any way. It just makes him look cool. It's just part of his redesign, but whatever, right? He goes to the one person in the world who can, again, best train him on how to beat him, Mihawk. Where does Sanji go?
Lady boys.
Where does Sanji go? Sanji goes to Thailand. Basically, like, Sanji goes to Bangkok. Sanji goes to Phuket. And basically gets... Here's the thing that bothers me the most about the Sanji thing. I mean, aside from the fact that it's just insulting. I mean, obviously, Kuma has a relationship with Ivankov. Kuma's like, oh, you know, Ivankov is strong. She's got, you know,
my boy.
He or she has like, I think it's a he. Okama Kempo, maybe, you know, Sanji uses kicks. Maybe you can learn something, whatever. But like, it's just handled so silly. And like, I hated every second of it because then there's that one moment where like Sanji becomes an Okama, which was just so disrespectful.
Oh,
but like, it really made me upset. But no, the thing that we learn in like the way that is presented, this is Sanji's training arc, is all of these people are super strong or stronger than they appear, specifically because they have been eating these like, you know, Akama, like basically kind of like Akama, you know, strength meals or whatever. I forget what they're called. I'll look it up, but whatever. Basically these like recipes that are made, like if you eat them, they'll make you stronger. And like, let's just say like they'll incrementally make you stronger. Obviously it's not going to make somebody who's like super weak, like super strong. It's just like, it'll make you a little bit stronger. I think it's a Newcomer recipe. I think I don't know. I'll look it up. But anyways, so he has basically these like recipes to collect, and it's positioned as every like there's 100 recipes or whatever, and like there's an Okama that has each one, and like in order to learn them all, you have to defeat all the Okama, and like they're really strong or whatever. And it's like, here's the issue that I have. The only thing that Sanji learns in that entire time is I think Zoro in like basically
the Skywalk.
the Skywalk. I forget what like the actual name of it from Rokushiki, but I know he calls it Skywalk and then Blue Walk or whatever. But like,
yeah, those like the only
that's
main
all
takeaways.
he learns, and we know he learns the Newcomer recipes. But we
don't
never
ever
see it again. It just comes in Fisherman Island. He's like, I'm going to make you guys some food. How do you feel? Oh, this is really good. Whatever. It never comes up again. It never comes up again. It never comes up again, even in the context of Sanji. He's not like stronger physically. Like, I know that he kicks the pacifista and his leg doesn't break. I know that's supposed to be like the improvement that we see after 2 years. But like, the recipes are lame and they didn't do anything, and it's quickly kind of forgotten about. Meanwhile, Zoro comes back. He knows armament hockey. He's like, probably knows observation hockey. He's trained with Mihawk for 2 years straight, which is crazy. That's longer than the Straw Hat Journey, by the way. Like,
earned.
Cuts a boat in half, like on accident.
That's the difference between Sanji and Zoro.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna say, like, why would you do that to Zoro? Like, why would you do that to Sanji, Oda? Like, why? Why would you do that?
Because that's my thing. That's what I'm saying. Is like Sanji has a role to play in the story,
but
and
that's
that
where
just
we
so
get to
happens to be
deserving,
his
though.
role. Unfortunately,
But that's where we get to deserving, though, because like I know y'all say like, oh, well, you know, he trains or whatever. What I consider deserving is like all the breaks that the writer gives to the characters seem to flow purely just to Zoro. That's what I'm talking about when I say, is this deserved?
What do you mean by that?
Oda gives Zoro all the breaks. Oda's a person who's like, okay, this I'll rattle it off. He's a supernova. He's a part of the world, the worst generation. He has a real bounty, whereas like Sanji had like a stupid, like, you know, joke bounty with like a stupid swirly face. Well, yeah, with like a enough time with like a stupid swirly face, not taken seriously. It just kind of disrespects Sanji every time he gets, but whatever. You get into the new world in Wano. Guess who's on top of the roof? Guess who's not on top of the roof? Sanji's not. Zoro is. It's Zoro, Killer, Kid, Luffy, and Law. They all get to be up there because, you know, they're part of the popular crowd or whatever, right? And Zoro, literally out of everybody else on the roof, other than Kid, who, I mean, we see that he's got Conqueror's Haki in like the Udon prison, but like it never really comes into play when he's actually fighting against Kaido or Big Mom, but whatever. Zoro's the only other person on that rooftop with Conqueror's Haki confirmed, period. And Zoro's the only person other than sort of kind of the Red Scabbards who like leave a light little notch of a cut, I guess, on Kaido. Like Zoro's the only person who like gets Kaido's like praise. He's like, man, you cut me. I'll remember your name. And it's like, dude, like again,
as he should.
He does this, and this is key. He does this before Luffy. Luffy does not like Luffy. Obviously goes.
Luffy couldn't cut him.
Luffy goes gear forth. He's like, but keep in mind, I don't even remember if Luffy is making serious damage with just the whatever, I forget his. I think it's like a Roku or something.
Nah,
he's coats his arm and hockey. Rio, thank you. Coats his arm and hockey and then extends it, which by the way, Oda just completely gave up on. But like coats his arm and like arm and hockey and then extends it a little bit for like kind of like treats it like net a little bit for like more explosive impact. Like I don't even remember that, and I'll look it up. I don't remember that particularly damaging Kaido the same way that Kaido like was like, oh my god, this guy just cut me. He like used Conqueror's Haki, like da.
Yeah.
Like, obviously Luffy then goes on to use Advanced Conqueror's Haki, but like the point being is like,
right.
Advanced Conqueror's Haki was Rio.
Yeah, well,
no, it's not.
Rio was an advanced application of armament Haki to where you could effectively insert the energy force in like to the internals of your target.
It was like an extended fundamental or like a level
Right.
2 of like armament hockey. It's like, oh, you know, armament hockey.
Yeah.
You can now extend it sort of outside of your body for more destructive power, which
Right. And to project it into the internals of whatever your target is. Right.
Yeah.
But the application of Conqueror's hockey on top of that was that aha moment for Luffy up there, right?
To
Like
get
he had
Conqueror's.
to learn Rio. He had to learn Rio in order to understand, and he had to fight Kaido and Big Mom in order to be like, wait a minute.
Yeah, but then guess
I can
what
actually
happens?
apply my Conqueror's hockey into that Rio, and then
But then
he
guess
ends
what
up
happens?
actually taking that fight.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut
What?
you off, but like later on in Zoro's fight with King, guess what he does? He learns
Awakens Conqueror's
He
Haki?
learns advanced Conqueror's Haki.
Yeah.
Just like that.
Yeah.
Almost without
Exactly.
any effort whatsoever. He didn't have to learn Rio at all.
I mean, it was.
It's
Yes.
not
It
just like
was
that. It's a
implied that it-
culmination.
Bro,
Yes, exactly.
he is
We talked
given-
about that. We talked
He
about
is
that during
given
the
what
hockey
Luffy
episode.
earns. He is
We
given
did.
what Luffy earns.
No,
Luffy-
no.
Dude,
Yes.
he's
They are
fighting
learning
along. They're
in
fighting
tandem.
together.
They
Kill
are
a
learning
Cam.
in tandem, and they are doing things slightly differently, right? Like we've already established the fact that Zoro, right, his Conqueror's Haki is not on the level of Luffy's, right? Like he cannot on command tell somebody to sit down and they go to sleep. Like we've already talked about
We
that.
haven't seen it yet.
The thing about Zoro, right, is that we see all of the things that lead up to those moments that warrant the credit that he's getting. And
Facts.
a good thing to represent here is a great book. I don't know if y'all have ever heard it. It's called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. Of
course,
right?
yeah, super
and
famous.
in that book, right, he effectively talks about think about the running head start, right? And think about the snowball effect that happens once something is set in motion. And so from inception, right, we knew Zoro was going to be great because at the
Yes.
beginning of the story, they said, hey, this is the number 2. This is the person who rivals Luffy. This is the person who is willing to challenge Luffy. This is the person who has ambition, who wants to become the greatest swordsman in the world. All of those things were set in motion, and every action that he has taken throughout the story contributes towards that, right? And so, unfortunately, that's just not Sanji's character, right? Like that's just not what Sanji has set out to do. Sanji wants to be like the best cook in all of the world, which is
Yeah.
fine.
And he's
but
like
that's
running
not-
away
He's
to
not trying to be
save
the best
girls
cook
in
the
every
world.
fight.
He's not trying to be the
He's
best
trying
cook in
to
the
cook
world.
for like the whole
No,
world, to cook all of the
He's
different.
trying
it's
to
like,
find all blue because he believes that the
Right,
best
right.
food can be found.
That's his dream. Yes.
Like basically in this
Right.
place where all the sea life meets.
and so it's a combination of exploration and cooking, right? But it's not battle preparation, right? Like his ultimate dreams and aspirations are not rooted in battle, right?
Correct.
Zoro's are, right?
Yeah.
And so we see the implications of that through his every instance, through his every growth spurt in the arcs and in the portrayal of the story. We also have to recognize that Zoro is the sword of Luffy, right? Sanji is the shield. There are some inherent
Who
differences
said that?
in the
Who
way.
said that?
I'm just.
I think
kinda
that's
obvious.
like.
I mean, he carries 3 swords.
Hold on.
and-
We've heard right hand of the Pirate King and then left
Yeah.
arm or whatever, left wing, right wing.
Yeah.
We haven't heard the sword and the shield. I think that's headcanon. I don't
So,
think that's
I think-
actually
Yeah,
been
no.
said in the series. So let's just
well, here's the thing.
let's
in
makes
the
just
sense.
clear
depictions
that
of
up
Nika,
now.
in the depictions of Nika, I'm just saying he's holding the shield in his left hand and the sword in his right. That's all I'm saying. So anyway, right, with Zoro
You just thought you
being
dropped
that
the, you just
character-
thought you dropped the mic on that one.
Yeah,
You just thought you dropped the mic on that one, bro.
Killer Kid was like, "Dang, that's a good point,
Yeah.
bro."
I mean, I was just kind of like, "Are you done? Let's just go."
Yeah, sure. All I'm saying is that there are reasons rooted in the inception of the story why Zoro is the character that he
Listen,
is.
you're
why
telling
he
me
gets the accolades.
Here's
Yeah.
here's the thing. Here's what you're telling me, right? In so many words. Well, Zoro's special. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. 100%. We both agree. The question is why?
Yeah.
Why is he special? And I honestly
Because-
think
yeah.
the
I mean,
reason
why is Luffy gonna be Pirate King?
well, Luffy's
Why
the
is
main
anybody
character.
anybody?
No,
Yeah,
Right.
but yeah.
well, the
Why? Like, how are they any different? Like, they're both special.
one is the main character and one is effectively a supporting character. The reason why Zoro is getting the kind of treatment that he is because of the central contention of the argument, which is basically Oda wanted to make the series with Zoro and didn't get the chance to So now
Possibly.
it's put Zoro in the series as like, this is a main character too. Like, I think he's telling two stories perfect. I mean, just to be honest,
Which is fair.
they have kind of similar dreams. Like, Luffy wants to be the Pirate King, which basically we know now is like, okay, it's the person who has the most freedom in the world. But to be honest, in order to have the most freedom requires you to have the power to allow you to be independent and move the way you want to move. So he therefore has to be the strongest, right? There can't be somebody who's stronger than the Pirate King, just generally speaking, right? Zoro wants to be the world's best swordsman, which basically just means I'm also the strongest, but like kind of in a more specific way. That's it.
Yes.
They kind of have the same dream,
Exactly.
right?
Right.
And the way in which like Oda treats them is if they were both main characters with a slight preference for Luffy, because obviously Luffy is the driving force of the series. But like Zoro comes out, I'll use maybe two more examples. Okay, so, and I'm just comparing them because like Zoro and Sanji technically have the same place. They are both Straw Hat crew members. They are not Luffy. They are not the main character. They're just big characters, right? They're popular characters, but they're treated completely differently. And this is the key distinction. Okay, so in the case of let's say Punk Hazard, Zoro has this cool moment where he intimidates Monet, who's a Logia user, supposed to be super strong, whatever, and basically just kind of bitches her up, and she like can't even maintain her form because Zoro's just such a badass, right? What is Sanji doing? Sanji is in a lot of the arc in Nami's body. He's not even a man anymore. Like I mean, let's just take that off the table. When he gets back into his body, he gets like a brief opportunity to fight Virgo and basically gets beat up by him. Like he breaks his leg again, which is like, okay, so you broke your leg on the Pacifista, you come back New World, and then you're breaking your leg, you're breaking your shin on like Virgo's body. I get he's like a hockey like master with armament, but like, come on, bro, like. At least say like, ow, that hurts, but you didn't actually suffer any like real damage. But anyways, Law comes in and then saves the day. So that's Punk Hazard and Whole Cake Island. Obviously, Zoro's not there. Sanji kind of like his crowning achievement is he makes a cake. Okay, cool. You know what I mean? Like, literally, he makes a cake. He tells Pudding that she's beautiful with her third eye. Those are his moments. Like he barely even defends against Daifuku, like the magic lantern guy.
Yeah.
Like barely even like holds his own. I mean, it's just. I mean, he saves Luffy. I'll give him that. Like he's the person who grabs Luffy. I think when Luffy escapes the mirror war from Katakuri, because like they're all waiting at the mirror, waiting to like just kill Luffy, and it's actually I think Sanji who like it's just a nice moment or whatever. They escape together, but like the point being is like in all of these kind of juxtapositions where like. They're both kind of getting moments like Sanji sometimes is getting the weaker moment or like an opposite of a moment.
Funnier moment.
Kind of like an embarrassing moment, whereas Zoro's is purely cool.
Comedy moment?
Yeah. Comedy or protector role.
That's just the distinction between their characters.
No.
It's not the distinction between their characters. Because keep in mind, like we'll do a video on Sanji, but when Sanji was introduced and like throughout really pre-time skip, Sanji, yes, he's humorous, he's comedic, like he's lecherous. It's like that kind of age-old, I'm a Japanese pervert kind of gag, whatever. But he also did really cool stuff. The way that he dressed, he wore a suit, he smoked cigarettes. Like he was supposed to be this like, but he was supposed to be this like cool James Bond-esque character, and he was treated as such, right? And like, I don't know, maybe it's the amount of Straw Hats that are there where they're all kind of competing for each other's moments because now Brook is kind of like, sort of kind of becoming the clutch guy. He takes like some of the clutch moments.
Brook is very clutch.
Brook is very clutch.
Like Sanji now is like
super clutch.
Kind of like the comedic guy. I don't know, which is kind of weird because Brook is also supposed to be a pervert, but whatever. I mean, in the case of like
Frankie too, a little bit.
The only time that like Zoro really gets humbled, and just to recap, sorry, I want to just do Wano just real quick. Zoro's on the roof. He gets Conqueror's Haki. He fights King. He unlocks Advanced Conqueror's Haki. Awesome. Sanji unlocks basically his genetic, I guess super form, right? Yeah. And he's fighting Queen, who's like a joke character and doesn't really have any interesting or cool special attacks. Just like a stupid I mean, I don't know. Like, all those fights were like joke fights, which I didn't understand. Like even King, it's like
I
like,
wouldn't call the Sanji versus Queen fight.
King
a
like
joke.
pulls his head back. Like I'm like, why are all these joke fights? Like Sasaki turns into like a helicopter. I'm like, Oda, what are you doing?
So
what are you doing?
I think that was Oda warming us up to the whole wacky world of Gear 5 and everything to follow.
But Sanji gets a huge moment during that fight. That's one of his biggest power-ups.
I mean, it's a cool power-up, sure. Like Sanji beats Queen, but like nobody takes Queen seriously. Queen had at that point already. Let's just be honest.
I took him
Queen
serious.
had already been beat by Big Mom. Queen was like afraid of Big Mom, and I understand like he's the first commander, or commander versus like a Yonko. I get that like there are levels to this, but like seeing an enemy get beaten. And then seeing him kind of get like, sloppy seconded by like Sanji as a fan, I just don't like it. I don't like it at all. So
that's hilarious.
We have Wano, and then just getting into Egghead. We're not going to get into Elbaf because obviously they're just sidelined. They're not doing anything. But in terms of Egghead, Zoro finally gets humbled, even though no one really kind of sees it like that. I see it like that, which is Zoro gets kind of the sloppy seconds of Luffy, and I am going to keep saying sloppy seconds. Gets the sloppy seconds of Luffy, and he gets to fight Lucci, and we're thinking like Zoro can use advanced conquerors haki. This is going to be a no-brainer. He's going to slice right through Lucci. Lucci sucks. He's old news. Zoro takes like 8 chapters to like even come to like a standstill stalemate where like I think eventually Lucci just kind of passes out or something like that. But like
it was like Jinbei grabbed Zoro.
Like Jinbei grabs Zoro and like he's like, dude, like this is taking too long. Like let's get out of here.
Yeah.
And
that's crazy.
Zoro decides to do like one final move and like that's the one that like kind of takes out Lucci. But anyways, it took too long. It was really embarrassing. It was a terrible showing for Zoro. It's like, dude, you just beat King. I wouldn't say that Lucci is stronger than King.
I would.
You're crazy. You're insane.
Well,
You're
King's not even awakened.
He's a Lunarian.
Very true.
He's a Lunarian.
Doesn't matter. Zoro figured out that Lunarian part, but he's not awakened.
Yeah.
The power level's completely different.
We don't even know what awakening means with Zoan users. We have no concept because Luffy just.
What do you mean?
Luffy just played around with Lucci. We don't even know how strong like a
but Luffy didn't beat Lucci either.
Luffy is a mythical Zoan. Rob Lucci is just a traditional Zoan. He's just a leopard. Okay. I think that makes a difference.
I don't think it makes a difference at all just because Orochi is a mythical Zoan user and Orochi's weak as hell. Yeah. Orochi got killed.
Yeah, but he wasn't awakened.
Okay.
Yeah, like...
So we're talking about 2 awakened Devil Fruit users, right?
Yeah.
But one is a mythical Zone user and the other is a
traditional Zone. Are we saying that Kaido isn't awakened?
User. I don't think Kaido was awakened.
Okay, but Kaido was still strong enough to like kind of handle Luffy.
I think he was awakened. He has like that cowl. I think the cowl thing. I don't
want to like retroactively say like because this is the problem with Zoan awakenings, which is they are completely uneven, and this whole like black cloud kind of thing really did kind of make it confusing because it's like okay, if you're gonna do the clouds,
and white clouds, black cloud. It's just stupid. It's just like pick a street. It's hard.
I like it.
Pick a street. Like let's just call it what it is. But like the kind of back and forth. I mean, even like the hockey lightning is like, okay, are they using conquerors or are they not? Because sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're using armament. You can go back and look at Dressrosa. So there's a lot of inconsistency there. But either way, okay. So that's the recap on Zoro. My overall point is this, and I understand you guys are Zoro fans. You're going to disagree. I'm sure many of the people watching this are Zoro fans. Everybody is a Zoro fan. He's cool, even though they have this weird kind of like, I don't know, like there are fans who are trying to make a meme of like Zoro being like racist because he attacks people.
Oh yeah, because he beats all the black characters.
There's no black characters. There's no black character in
What
One
are you
Piece.
talking
Like
about?
there's not
King. What's
King
the
is not black.
guy's name? Mr. One.
King is not black.
Anybody who's
That's
like
Bones.
King is black.
Anybody who's like
Brooke.
Brooke's not black.
Brooke was black. He got an afro. He was dark skinned.
He loves panties.
The people of let's say the people of a country right now that are in a warlike state. I'm not going to mention the name.
Yeah.
They are
Yeah, no,
also
that's fair.
black by your curly hair
Fair
definition.
enough. Nah, it's just a joke. They just make fun
I
of
don't
him
like the
beating up all the
disrespect on
melanated
Zoro.
individuals.
I don't like the disrespect on
Which
Zoro.
is fair.
There are no black people
agree.
except for maybe the dude who had like the bomb ability, who could like spit and turn into a
That
bomb.
guy.
I would consider him black because he's actually dark skinned and
He cut
actually
his
has the
head
curly
off.
hair. He didn't cut his head off. He's still alive. But his powers are cool. He's just kind of used them stupidly. But it's like, dude,
Yeah.
whatever. You're spitting on people. That's your attack. That's so stupid. Anyway,
You're spitting.
but like,
My bad.
I'll just say like this. Like, here's my contention. Everybody loves Zoro. I get it. Zoro's cool. He's got a cool design. He does cool things. He does cool things because the author makes him do cool things. He is cool. He says the cool things because the author makes him do cool things and say cool things. The question is why? The answer to me is this is the guy that Oda wanted. He wanted to create a mega Clint Eastwood, Chuck Norris Giga Chad for the series vis-a-vis Ryuma, vis-a-vis Monsters. It didn't happen.
Yeah.
So he goes, okay, I'm going to create a completely different thing and I'm going to just bring it in anyways. I'm going to sneak it in there. I'm going to backdoor the character that I really wanted, and that's just going to be how it goes. And that's exactly what
I'm happy he did.
He does
We're happy
Romance
he
Dawn.
did.
He does Romance Dawn. He gets the basically kind of framework of, okay, this is about a little boy who wants to be the strongest pirate, and his name is Luffy, and we're going to follow his dream. And oh wait, the first person that he meets that's going to join his crew is going to be this other guy who looks exactly like this other guy from my other series. I'm going to bring him in.
Psych.
He wants to be the best swordsman, and he's also like really important and really cool, and we're going to kind of split between these guys. Because even like...
Hell yeah.
I got you, bitch.
even with like, and we talked about this in the Jinbei video, but like Luffy is hanging with Jinbei, and Jinbei's like the Godfather, Unk status, like telling him like, okay, you got to do this, you got to move like this. I'm going to tell you about the world. We're moving this together. I got you. I'm your man. I'm behind you. I support you. Then he gets back in the crew. Jinbei immediately gets sidelined for who? For Zoro. It's Luffy and Zoro again. Sanji just happens to be down there in Elbaf right now. He was not invited. It is just Zoro and Luffy all over again with an extra special guest vis-a-vis Loki. It just is what it is. Like Oda can't quit Zoro. He just can't.
Monster Trio's
Why should
together
he?
in
He
current.
shouldn't. But like
They
it should
are-
be
they are
even.
together.
But clearly, like even in the Monster Trio, like Oda, it used to be a contention that like, oh, you know, like if you're a Sanji fan, like Sanji's just as strong as Zoro if he used knives or whatever. It's like now it's kind of obvious that, you know,
Now it's a
like
stretch.
particularly with like Kakurasaki, particularly the man's Kakurasaki, it's like, come on, bro. Like I'm a Sanji fan. Sanji's not as strong as Zoro. It just is what it is. It just is what it is.
Right.
Maybe he could be if he focused his whole life on, you know, fighting and kicking or whatever, and maybe he did use knives,
That's my point.
but he doesn't.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have Kakurasaki. He definitely doesn't have
And
man's
that's okay.
Kakurasaki.
It's okay.
And,
yeah,
and
it is
Zoro is officially stronger, and he's got the higher bounty. And
And that's okay.
it is fine. It's
the best.
It is fine.
He's
It
like,
is-
It's the best.
He's really struggling with
It's
that.
fine.
It is
Yeah.
fine. It is something that just, it's one of the down aspects of life where you just have to deal with it. It is what it is. But I will say this, and like I do want to get last thoughts from you guys because I feel like we've kind of exhausted
Yeah.
this, but
For
Yeah.
real.
I just think Zoro is cool because Oda wants him to be cool. Sanji,
What's wrong with that?
I mean, if you're
Go
a
ahead,
Zoro
go
fan,
ahead.
absolutely nothing. Sanji, unfortunately, doesn't get the same kind of love, and this isn't supposed to be like a Zoro versus Sanji thing, even though it kind of has been. I just think it is. I think it's about time that we take a more egalitarian approach with the series, and that everybody loves, or sorry, that the focal point of love, right, the channel of love, if you will, that seems to be flowing almost exclusively to Luffy and to Zoro, gets spread out a little bit more among the rest of the Straw Hats, particularly Sanji and Chopper. But just a little bit more love just gets sprinkled over them, and we give them more chocolate chips within the batter. That's all I'm saying. All right, I want to get you guys' thoughts, then we'll wrap this one up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Final thoughts. Zoro stands exactly as he should within the story, as he was directed, as his character depicts. Like everything about his character, he lives up to, right? And so
Mhm.
I think that with the telling of the story, he is indeed meant to portray a very strong, stoic, responsible, strategic at times, somewhat lost individual in sense of direction. But, I genuinely think that there's nothing wrong with this kind of deuteragonist kind of role in the story, even though you say that he's not exactly that. I don't mind having that level of perspective shared for this character. I think the strength of the character in and of itself warrants it. We all know, and especially within the frame of shonen anime and manga, the battle aspect is meant to be there. And I think that Zoro represents a very important piece of that because of the seriousness that he brings into his battles, right? Like the way that Zoro versus King battle was portrayed was incredible. And I think that it's even more important now that Luffy has awakened Gear 5 because as we have talked about, Gear 5 does bring some sense of silliness into the battle. I don't think that it completely washes the seriousness of all battles. That's just my personal opinion. But I think that with the silliness that Gear 5 brings, the contrast that Zoro brings into his fights with the seriousness and the tone are very meaningful. And I think that he's only going to show up even more so in the story as we continue, i.e., referencing my perspective on Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. Like the snowball is already rolling at this point, and so I think
Hmm.
that he's just going to continue accumulating accolades and significant moments in the story. I don't, I don't know how much of a role he's going to play because honestly, I would say that plot wise and lore wise, in regards to the story, Sanji is more favored than Zoro, right? Like Sanji's lineage, the makeup of his being when it comes to the whole Germa 66 stuff, like there's a lot of lore embedded into the character of Sanji that it
Hmm.
just isn't there for Zoro. Zoro is quite a one-dimensional character, and that's okay, right? But he owns that one dimension that he exists in, right? And I
He
think
does.
sometimes that scares people or it intimidates them because that level of focus seems so bland, right? Like, what's so great about being just the greatest swordsman in the world and only focusing on fighting and all of this stuff? Well, apparently there's a lot of greatness within that, right? And I think that lesson is imbued in life in all of the ways that we move, right? Like there are those who focus on one thing and one thing only, and it seems kind of arbitrary and absurd until they succeed at that one thing. And then there are those who focus on a couple of other things. I feel like Sanji kind of just doesn't have his focus exactly where it needs to be, or his focus isn't primary enough to the story to be portrayed in the way that Zoro's is, right? But needless to say, I think Sanji is a multi-dimensional character, which is meaningful. And I think that that brings a lot to the story. Just not everybody appreciates how it's portrayed. And I'll rest my case there.
That was good.
Like that.
Yeah,
I feel
I
better
liked
when you
it.
say that's okay. It just calms my
Yeah.
heart. All right, Moogie, jump in.
No, I'll make mine quick. I do agree with a similar viewpoint. Like I see what you're saying that he is getting all these opportunities, and I do agree that some of the other Straw Hats need to get some love. I don't think I would put that love even anywhere near Sanji. I want like the rest of them to get anything beside like anything.
I agree.
Like what we talked about. Like I
Yes.
agree that like
Yeah.
anything that Zoro's getting, like Zoro is strong. We understand that.
Hmm.
But I would say like I think when he's writing these characters and a lot of the hang up that we're having is like when he's creating a scene, he's not like I need this character to do something. I think he's approaching it as what would this character do in this situation? And he has like their personality down. He's got everything down and like never in any situation like when it's getting serious is anyone going as hard as Zoro and wanting to get in that battle. You know, and I think that's why we see him in a lot of these situations. Sanji, he has an issue where he in any situation gets hard eyes, flips out, and like goes anywhere. I think that like he did write him better early. You mentioned that earlier. Like he was a very cool character. For some reason, he is not that way. But there are tons of other characters that aren't getting the love that Zoro's getting, and I think it's just because of that's who Zoro is. And like if you're picturing it from like a very awesome standpoint, like he's one of the main reasons why people fear the Straw Hats. And there's been a couple points where people are like, yo, that like Zoro's on that crew. Like, do you know who's standing in front of you? And like it gives you this amazing like parallel, like what you were talking about, Mr. Wild and Free. Like Luffy just like F's off and he's like bouncing around like a crackhead, doing all this stuff. In some ways, he's like a terrible captain. Like in a way, like Zoro holds it down. He's serious. Right. He sets it up. Whenever this type of situation happens, he is the parallel to that silliness. And he's got the first mate. He covers it. Luffy's gone. He's like guarding the boat. Does some crazy like he's just got that parallel for him, and that's really all I'd want to do. I think it's like he's just like one of the more like cool characters, but I think that's because like you're not going to create a mediocre character. I just like it's hard. You know?
He's like the grounding. He's the grounding fulcrum of the Straw Hats. Like, things actually revolve around him a lot more than we might realize.
Yeah, you guys are giving some good little rebuttals. I'm gonna hear bashes.
Yeah, I like that point. I definitely think he's the yin to Luffy's yang, and they definitely feed off of and play off of each other, different personalities as well. So I like that. I also want to bring a word into this that Mr. Wild and Free and Killer Cam brought up, and the word is deuteragonist. That's a great word. It's a big word, and I think it's essential in this situation because Zoro is the second most important character in the story after the protagonist. So it's warranted that he gets these writings from Oda and these power-ups, and it is okay, Cam. Killer Cam, we know you love Sanji. We all love Sanji, but it's okay for Zoro to get these power-ups just because of who he is in the story. Now, if we're comparing apples to apples, right? I just want to take a second to shit on Sanji's power-ups, right? So I just want to.
We need more.
I just want to say that Zoro's all of his power-ups were earned and not given, and I can argue the fact
except for Enma.
He had to earn that. It wasn't just Enma was not just a gift. It was a challenge.
It almost ate his arm.
He had to learn advanced hockey to be able to control Enma. It wasn't just. I mean, he had to
go
through
literally
some shit.
given to him, but okay. But I want to let you.
He had to go.
I'm not going to
shit.
My bad.
All right. So, what I was going to say that was Sanji's power-ups are all given and Zoro's are earned. Diable Jambe is cool, largely unexplained. I mean, pre-time skip, right? It's friction. Yeah. So cool, like, but still, question marks around that. Skywalk, I mean, CP9 did that. Use a copy and paste from CP9. The raid suit that wasn't earned.
Given.
It was given by his family.
And he took it off and he threw it in the trash and he destroyed it immediately because he said, I want to earn it. He said, I want to earn it.
Admirable. He did get rid of the raid suit. And then his last, I guess, Conqueror's hockey moment is his exoskeleton awakening, which also was not given. It's something he was imbued with biologically since he was born. Zoro's power-ups were all earned. And
hold on, but one thing on that, though, and I think this is really important. Okay, so I already mentioned this. Sanji was given the raid suit, wore it once, and was like, this isn't me. I'm going to do my own thing. He tosses it, even though it gave him the opportunity to achieve his dream without eating a devil fruit. Because he always wanted to be able to turn invisible, and he could have with that suit and said, you know what? I'm going to cast it aside because it's not me. I want to do my own thing. I don't want to be kind of in line with my family who treated me like trash, right? I'm going to do my own thing. He is the lost prince, and he is. But that being said, okay, so that's one. Two, he awakens his genetic, kind of predisposition, whatever. But one thing that's important is like, this dude was literally tortured as a child because he didn't have it. He went through the pains in the struggles and the strife and the depression of being cast out of his own family by his father after his mother died, and by his siblings who just thought he was like a weakling. They made fun of him, whatever, right? He lived what it was like to not have power, and still had like the perseverance to like gain power on his own in a way that was competitive with his dad. Because just to be honest, he was about to take out his own dad when he was fighting his dad. And so his dad like summoned a clone or whatever. Mugi, I know you got to run. I just want to say, hey, I love you, bro.
All right, guys.
Peace out, Moogs.
Moogie Might out.
Peace and blessings, bro.
Later.
Yeah.
Okay, so he was about to take out his dad until obviously his dad, summoned, the clone or whatever. But the point being is like, Sanji has had to like experience the world as somebody who is weak. And, obviously maybe Zoro as a kid was weak at some point, but Zoro was always pretty talented at, being a swordsman, even as a student. He just wasn't as talented as Kuina. But I don't know. I mean, I think that is like a fundamental difference, and I think that does add character. One last thing that I want to add, and I will just say this, which is like, here's what I think the problem is within modern One Piece. It is, Oda has too many characters, too many main characters. And what I mean when I say that is like, we mentioned this before where like, Jinbei steps on the toes of Zoro. Jinbei is an older, more mature, stoic kind of figure, right? That when it's just him and Luffy, he fills that role of like unk status, giving advice,
Right.
no nonsense. You know what I mean? Like helping Luffy see the wiser path, right?
Mm-hmm.
When Jinbei's not there, it's Zoro. Before Jinbei, it was Zoro, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now that Jinbei's back, Jinbei cannot operate within that mode at the same level that he was when Zoro wasn't around. Zoro's back in the seat, and that's Zoro's role, right? Now, if you look at, let's say, Sanji and Brook. Sanji has always been a smart, intelligent, working behind the scenes, getting more done independently than necessarily like just going head to head and like just blasting through shit. Like he's always been like a smart, strategic, integral member of the Straw Hats, thinking ahead and thinking of ways to strategically or intelligently solve problems behind the scenes. To some degree, Brook comes along. Brook was the guy who's like, okay, I'm super fast. I play music. To be honest, the crew doesn't need music in that many instances. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, well, what does Brook do when he's not playing music? Because he's not a super strong powerhouse. Okay, let's give Brook what Sanji used to do. Brook will be clutch. He will be the person who operates sort of kind of behind the scenes. He's a person who like snuck into like Big Mom's room when she was sleeping and like stole the poneglyph rubbings. He like had no problem challenging her. He does it again when he slammed, which I mean, to be honest, had no effect, but slams the hammer and breaks the like Mother Caramel photo. You know what I mean? Like when like he kind of did that clutch because like everybody thought that, basically they were out of reach and not able to do that. Brooks like pops up right there and just smashes it. Brook has kind of taken that from Sanji. And just to underscore this last little point, Jinbei comes in a similar role. Jinbei gets minimized, right? Because Zoro comes first. Brook and Sanji are around, right? And basically Sanji's kind of sweet spot beyond like being a top fighter of just being like a key strategic kind of player gets ceded to Brook to give Brook more of like a role and more things to do. So when, again, there's a new Straw Hat, Zoro doesn't sacrifice anything. When there's a relatively new Straw Hat vis-a-vis Brook, Sanji does. And that, I think, is like the core difference between the way that anybody other than Luffy and Zoro are treated versus any other Straw Hat. Any other Straw Hat can kind of like kick rocks, to be honest. Zoro and Luffy will never sacrifice. Obviously, Luffy won't, but specifically Zoro won't either. And I think it is because maybe he is a deuteragonist. I think
the number two.
we would need to see to make him a true deuteragonist. We would need to see him like go off on his own and have his own independent story. I don't think we'll ever see that. But I get where like you guys are trying to make the argument that the way in which he's treated is like beyond a supporting character. He is also a main character, just in the treatment of him, which
Yeah.
I would argue is like so unique, so specific. It happens with nobody else in the series other than Luffy. That Oda has a special place in his heart, making Zoro a magic pixie Giga Chad. And there you have it.
Yeah,
Hilarious.
we'll leave it there. Mic drop.
Mic drop. There it is.
Okay. All right.
Well,
This has been fun. We try to keep this short, but it doesn't happen. It doesn't work.
We tried.
It never works.
This was supposed to be 30
We
minutes,
just keep
guys.
talking. But anyways, this is a pretty good deep dive into Zoro. I mean, I thought this was pretty interesting. I want to do a deep dive on like Sanji at some point. I think obviously I'm a big fan. I want to do one on Chopper. I want to do one on what other interesting Straw Hats are there?
Brooke.
Maybe
Brooke
Nico
is very
Robin.
interesting.
Robin is super interesting.
Robin, yes.
Frankie,
They all are.
maybe.
Incredible lore. Frankie has
That'll
a
be
lot
a
of
shorter
potential.
one. That'll be a shorter one for sure. There's not
I
that
don't
much.
know. I don't
I think
know.
Nami's story is like the lamest one. Like she's just like
Yeah,
a,
I would
a
say-
robber, like a burglar. Like
But Nami's
Yeah.
funny though. She, like her humor always hits. I feel
Yeah,
like.
no. But to the point I was making before about Zoro, I think Nami is similarly one-dimensional, which is fine. I think it's okay to have that. Like Zoro, Nami, Chopper, Brooke. I would even dare say Jinbei. They're all one-dimensional. Well, now Brooke, I would start to take Brooke out of that conversation only because of the latest things that are happening on Elbaf.
Yeah.
But other than that, the others, one-dimensional.
yeah,
I would even say Usopp is somewhat one-dimensional. He has potential to awaken something in Elbaf if Oda delivers on that, in regards to the depth of his story, but he's pretty much one-dimensional.
yeah.
Sanji, Robin, they are probably the two most lore-heavy, multi-dimensional characters on the Straw Hats.
I think if we do like a Chopper video, I think it'll be like the downfall of Tony Chopper. It'll be something like the kind of downfall, demise, kind of like meta.
We didn't do
of
that
YouTube.
already?
Nah.
No, we need to really get into it because
crazy.
Oh man, the group
it's
healer.
just- I love somebody in the comments was like, and this will be the last thing, obviously, but like somebody in the comments was like, Chopper's a healer. He shouldn't be like in danger, like as a fighter. I'm like, who said that?
Fair.
Like every doctor in every crew, by the way, like we've seen them be
Fight.
fighters. Like
Yeah.
Bird, for instance, is
Marco.
the doctor. Like she's
Right.
a part of the new warrior giant pirates. Like she definitely knows how to fight. Then you have Doc Q, who's a part of the Blackbeard pirates. Like where are you getting this stuff from?
Marco is a fighter and a healer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like
that's just the way the One Piece world is. The healers
Yeah.
fight.
I mean everybody fights. Like that's just the
But-
world that it is.
But Chopper is the only mascot. I'm just saying.
I really don't like that. And Chopper used to really get mad about that. Now he's just kind of like,
I know,
I
right?
am the mascot. It's like, dude.
Basically.
And it's
Except-
crazy because if you look at popularity polls, it just
Yeah.
completely just like tanks. It tanks
For sure.
looking at Chopper. But
sure.
anyways, that's a conversation
Yeah.
for a
Alright,
different
y'all.
day.
Catch y'all.
All right, you guys. It's been real.
Well,
Thanks for
peace
watching.
and
Like,
blessings, y'all.
comment, subscribe, whatever. Do your thing.
Do the
I hit
thing.
2.9.
Nice.
2.9 miles before it stopped running.
If you guys make it to the end,
plug that
he's
thing
on
in.
a walk pad. He's walking on a walk pad. That's why he's moving.
Yeah.
If you have any questions
When
about
it times out, I just have to stop walking.
yeah, you walked it up.
Just okay.
Okay. All right, boys. Until next time.
Catch y'all later.
Peace.
Peace.
Peace.